Hi, welcome to the very first episode of The Geoff Newton Show. This is a podcast for coaches and healers who want to grow their business by building a powerful personal brand so that they can make a bigger impact in the world and attract their dream clients to them. And it's my passion to help coaches and healers who feel like they have more inside of them that wants to be visible, wants to be known in the world, and want to attract, their dream clients to them, to help them bridge that gap so that voice inside can be translated into an expression outside that really leads others. I've been a coach since about 2010, 2011, and I've gone through as a supervisor in a coaching academy, witnessing hundreds of coaches go through their certification process and watching them in their attempt or their efforts to build a business and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And that's what's really made me care about this journey and want to help you on this journey as well. In addition to that, this podcast is going to include me talking on various topics to help you build your business, grow that visibility, grow that leadership. But I'm also going to interview and feature coaches and healers along their journey as well, so we can learn from everyone's journey together. So you're in the right place if you feel in your heart that you have leadership inside of you, that you want to lead, that you actually want to be visible and want to attract more clients to you. Because not everyone wants to lead, right? Some people are going to be really happy having a steady stream of clients, and they can even work behind the scenes doing their magic there. And that's really cool. That's perfectly okay. But this podcast is for those of us who, even if we're working behind the scenes and doing great work, something inside knows that we're meant for more visibility, more impact, to have our message spread to more and more people and not be kept behind the scenes of our business. And if you're like me, the longer you go feeling that behind the scenes feeling you're the best kept secret, but there's a longing for more, the greater that gap becomes between your embodiment, who you're being on a day-to-day basis, and this voice inside of you, this longing inside of you, this greatness inside of you. The more that gap grows, the more frustrating it can feel, the more defeating it feel, the more exciting it can feel. And this is the place for us to come together and help you on your mission to bringing what's inside out so you can close that gap and actually embody this next level that's calling you. This is also a podcast for you if you're the kind of person who's done a lot of inner work, so can really play with these different ingredients of spirituality and going with the flow and surrender and art and being creative and listening to the timing that's right for you so that you don't burn out, so that you're coming from an authentic place, but also to build the skills of having structure, of having goals or ambition or drive or the desire to take action in an inspired way. So this is for the kind of person who wants to bridge those worlds and get the best of both worlds so that you're not burning out from over efforting and trying too hard, but you're not incubating and just hiding out and not stepping up to the plate and watching your dreams fade before your eyes. And I also believe if you're listening to this, you're the kind of person who knows that this is an inner game and who wants to win that game. In other words, you have more love to share with the world, and you know the only thing in the way preventing you from doing that is, of course, there's timing. And of course, there's the learning skills and all those normal things that we have to do as entrepreneurs to build a business in the practical world. But you know that you're the one thing you have to overcome. You have to grow into a new version of yourself. And you know the greatest source of resistance is going to be those habits, those patterns, those thoughts, those fears, those emotions, those distractions that are part of the old self. And you are the kind of person who has done the inner work and seeks to grow into a new version of yourself. If this stuff sounds exciting to you, you're in the right place. That's exactly what we're going to do here. So as we get started here, I want to let you know why I created this podcast. And I did touch on it a little bit earlier. When I started my coaching journey in 2011, I had a tough time putting myself out there. It felt like I had amazing experiences and wisdom to share with the world, and I felt like I could give everyone this brilliant advice. But when it came to showing up on social media, when it came to sharing myself, when it came to marketing myself, I became a different person. I wasn't very good at the whole marketing thing, and I made a lot of mistakes that I know better now, right? I know what not to do now. But That wasn't the worst part. I think the worst part was how disappointing it felt to feel so connected and so rich inside in terms of what I wanted to share, and then to show up in front of a camera and be nothing but a jumbled mess of contraction and just saying stuff, losing track of the point of what I'm trying to say, and especially losing all the joy. It felt like such an amazing, fun, heart-inspired idea that I was going to do this beautiful thing of taking all that connection I'm feeling inside and just, boom, share it out. But the reality was, it was frustrating, it was embarrassing, it was defeating to get in front of a camera and become a different person and not know why. Why is that happening? And that example I'm giving of being on video, I found not only in video, but actually in many places in my business. Why is it I could feel one way when meditating or doing astrology or tarot readings or whatever, and then another way as soon as I was an entrepreneur? There was some gap there that I needed to learn how to overcome, and that journey hasn't ended. It's still going on today to unpack this love or this wisdom or whatever it is I'm in touch with that speaks to me, but to let it become, to let yourself become a channel that translates that through so it can reach the people it's meant to reach, requires overcoming myself, like we said a moment ago. And so I've been on this journey for over 12 years now, but I've been helping other coaches along the way. And, that was an eye-opener. When I was a supervisor for an organization, it was training coaches. It was an academy. And I was helping train those coaches through different levels until they were certified. I do it online every week in groups with multiple groups over the course of years. And also I've been to multiple live certification events where there were sometimes 80 or more people in a room, coaches, and we were working through in these group circles to help them learn the method and to help observe or supervise them for their certification. And it really hit me that so many of these graduates were incredibly talented and skilled, but almost all of them seemed to struggle with building a business and expressing that love that's inside, that wisdom, that talent that's inside, in an empowered way, in a way that really added up to making an impact, a large impact with others, and where that impact came back and reflected in income in their business. In fact, I was so shaken by observing that this wasn't just something I was struggling with, but in fact, I was ahead of a lot of them in my ability, and I felt like I was drowning. So it was not an easy thing for me to witness. And I might even be exaggerating it, because sometimes when you care about something, you only remember the struggle, or it gets remembered in an exaggerated way. But I'm telling my story like this is how it felt for me. It felt like, oh my God, there's all these talented people with so much love to give, and we're struggling. And there was a statistic I heard in 2020. So now we're going a little bit all over the place in the timeline, but this is an important piece of the pie for me, is more people during the COVID epidemic. There was some stat like 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 Americans had gone into therapy or counseling or coaching within that year. And so it was this huge increase in people taking up coaching and taking up therapy, and the need was clearly out there. And there were reports coming out about divorce rates skyrocketing, and basically people were at home and didn't know how to cope with each other. People didn't know how to cope with themselves. Drinking was going up. So there was all kinds of mental health awareness going on, mental health issues, and there was a big need for more and more care. So everyone I knew had the best year in their coaching business ever. No, they didn't. They also couldn't find their clients. So you have this huge need over here, and all these coaches without clients over here. And it's very obvious to me that this is a marketing problem, because there were people that needed their genius, these coaches. But if these coaches are hiding, if you can't find them, if they're not online, if they're not leading, if they're not sharing their voice, that link up never happens. So by going through these experiences, by observing what was going on in my own business, but outside of me as well, this has built up what we're experiencing now as a podcast, as a way that I can help support you on this journey, because your people are out there. You're designed for a unique kind of person. I really believe that there's a specific market, you could call it, or audience just for you, where you're the perfect person for them. So instead of you having to become something else, to meet their needs, you get to be the best, most exciting version of yourself for you, and to keep learning to do that and overcoming yourself in order to live that. And that the more you do that, the more it serves them. So that's a bit about my story and about why we're doing this. But here's what I'm hoping you get from this show. Here's what to expect. You're going to get a regular place to plug into to keep this conversation alive, because one of the most difficult parts of this journey of being an entrepreneur, a spiritual entrepreneur, a coach, a healer, is that even though we tend to learn in groups, sometimes the journey itself of building that business can be incredibly lonely, incredibly isolating. There's not enough conversation around what's going on behind the scenes about the difficulties and about how to build that business for a spiritual coach or healer, or heart-centered coach or healer. So it's really important that you have a place to come back to the conversation again and again and hear from not just me, but the people in our community, the people that I'll be featuring here on the podcast as well, so that you stay plugged into the conversation and it keeps waking up that sometimes maybe sleepy part of you that wants to grow or wants to step into leadership, that just needs a consistent voice, a consistent reminder, some consistent engagement. And then if you are hard on yourself, which a lot of people I know are, it will take some of that away just to hear how normal struggling with this is and how exciting going through this journey can be. This podcast is also going to give you some simple and approachable strategies for your marketing, for your leadership, for your visibility, because it doesn't help to try to be an expert at everything all at once. It just gets overwhelming. So I find it's easier to focus on some clear, less is more strategies. And there's a rule, and it says that 20% of your efforts create 80% of your results, which means we could spend a lot of time on things that don't really matter. So if you're a perfectionist like me, you'll understand this, that you can really try to get it perfect around the edges, but like the meat of something, you're just not working on, you're kind of avoiding it and working around the edges. And I want to help you do that 20% that matters. Do that 20% that isn't overwhelming. Actually, it is overwhelming, just that 20%. It's like almost the limit of what we can do, but it is the 20% that makes a difference, that makes 80% of the difference. So to step into those areas that matter the most and do the daring thing, and giving you some strategies that make that maybe a little more fun and a little less difficult, and allow you to step into these very real world activities or actions in your business that will change your positioning and position you as a leader and grow you more comfortable with this whole leadership thing, with being visible, with being known to your audience or your community as the one to go to. And not only as the one to go to, but a big part of this is helping you make a difference even before people buy, like touching your audience, changing your lives, making a bigger impact. That's what we're here to do. So that's what we'll be doing here on future episodes of this podcast. I've really loved having you with me. If you'd like, you can follow me over on Instagram at It's Geoff Newton, or on YouTube at Geoff Newton. And if you've got a story or message you'd like to share, reach out to me, because I'll be featuring guests here on this podcast to help others on their leadership journey as well, and yours might be a perfect fit. And finally, if this episode spoke to you, feel free to share it with some friends, coaches, healers, whoever you think needs to hear this. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And until then, enjoy the journey of building your heart-centered business by showing up as the authentic, real you.